Hello, this is Ruth Hollingshead, trustee for Site for Wight, welcoming you to this week's Talking News.
Site for Wight Talking News for Friday the 2nd of October 2020.
Alison, reading an Island Observer article called Say a Big Hello to Your High Street. Islanders are being urged to say hello to your high street as part of the Isle of Wight's Let's Buy Local campaign. From Monday, October the 5th, an initiative will be launched encouraging us to explore our stores, starting with a focus on the county town of Newport. A Let's Buy Local page has been set up on Facebook, which will introduce followers to the people behind the businesses and highlight some of the hidden gems on our high streets. There will be competitions and giveaways over the next 8 weeks, including free chocolate from cows-based chocolatier Chocolicious. Visitors from the mainland often comment on how lucky we are to have so many interesting shops, says Graham Biss from Natural Enterprise, the charity coordinating the campaign. The island has an exciting range of independent shops, so if you think you know Newport, think again. You can find so many things that you wouldn't expect from a traditional market town, such as state-of-the-art running shoes and vegan cakes. High streets around the country have been badly hit by coronavirus, but the island's businesses quickly found ways to respond to the crisis. Many shops now offer free or subsidised delivery, online ordering, and the opportunity to book appointments out of hours so you can browse without other customers being in the store. Island shops have also been made COVID safe, with a range of practical solutions that still make shopping a fun and interactive experience. As we approach Christmas, it's the perfect time to see what's on your doorstep, shop safely and support your local towns, says Joe Randall from Love Running, one of the Newport businesses involved in the campaign. Your local shopkeepers have a huge amount of knowledge and passion for their products, so give them the chance to show what they can offer. Plus, when you shop locally, 63 pence in every pound stays in the local economy. So let's buy local and support our island. To find out more, please go to letsbuylocal.org.uk or visit www.facebook.com/Let's Buy Local IW.
This is Howard reading an article from the Isle of Wight County Press about a fundraising record-breaking event. A 15-year-old has today, Thursday, become the youngest person to sail solo around Britain, raising more than £7,000 for cows-based Ellen MacArthur Cancer Trust through his fundraising page. Timothy Long set himself the challenge of completing the 1,600 nautical mile voyage around the British coast, setting out from Hamble Point Marina on July 16th. He officially broke the record of Tom Webb, who sailed around Britain aged 17 in 2011 after re-entering Hamble to a rousing reception from onlookers. It was email encouragement from Ellen, who Timothy lists as his greatest inspiration, that led to him taking the challenge on his 28-foot Hunter Impala named Alchemy. Yesterday, Wednesday, he received a warm welcome from Ellen herself as he visited the Isle of Wight ahead of the final leg back to Hamble. Timothy said, "The Ellen MacArthur Cancer Trust does amazing work with young people to rebuild their confidence after cancer treatment. The experience of being together on a boat can be a turning point for those who've been through the worst of times." Ellen said, "It's an incredible achievement for anyone to sail single-handed around the UK, but to do it at 15 is something else. The legacy of what he's done will be far-reaching in terms of helping to change the lives of young people in recovery from cancer."
This is Den reading from the Isle of Wight County Press. Lucky escape for Isle of Wight driver during Storm Alex as tree falls in front of car. A woman had a lucky escape when a tree fell down in front of her car. Elizabeth Carmichael was driving along Stroodwood Road near Ryde on Friday morning during Storm Alex. She hit the brakes when a tree fell into the road in front of her Renault Clio. Although the car sustained enough damage to ensure it will probably be written off by insurers, Elizabeth was unhurt, albeit left very shaken. She immediately phoned the police, concerned that other vehicles would crash into the tree on the country road. The road was closed while Island Roads removed the debris.
This is an article from the Island Observer, read by Terry. Cowes footballer who suffered racist abuse felt physically sick. Cowes sports captain Callum Chase speaks to the Isle of Wight Observer about his experience of being at the receiving end of racist abuse during a match on September the 26th. Match officials have reported Fleet Town to the FA after the Cowes captain was subjected to prolonged racial abuse by a minority of supporters present at Saturday's Wessex League tie in North Hampshire. Callum Chase, 20, is a former Carisbrooke High School student currently studying physical education at Chichester University. He said, "I must admit it was very tough. Light comments were made during the first half and I decided to ignore them and carry on playing my game. As the second half went on, the comments got worse and this affected me even more. I felt hurt and physically sick. This is all new to me, so I'm finding it difficult to deal with what has happened. In the past I've had the odd comment, but nothing quite like this." Just before the second half, our goalkeeper reported the issues to the referee. He was aware it was happening and assured me it would all be reported after the game. It's not my place to say what happens now. The FA will deal with the situation accordingly and then we will go from there. Fleet Town, who have a squad that includes 3 black players, put out a statement on the incident, which they ended with #KickItOut. "We will be holding an internal investigation in regards to the allegations made against a small number of home fans," it read. "We would like to take this opportunity to remind all players, fans and clubs there is no place in football for racism. We at Fleet take great pride in our diverse squad and, having been at the receiving end firsthand, we know how devastating such events like this can be. Any fans who are found guilty will receive a life ban from the club to highlight the severity and our stance on the matter." Cowes Sports FC issued a statement labelling the abuse as shameful and added, "As an Isle of Wight club, we have been very tolerant for many years, as many players and supporters of mainland clubs have found it necessary to bait our players by calling them inbreds. And now we are not prepared to allow one of our players to be victimised for the colour of his skin."
Iona. The Earl of Wessex paid a surprise trip to the island on Tuesday. Island Observer. The quickfire tour was kept secret from all but the few organisations and businesses that he planned to visit. Prince Edward landed by royal helicopter on the playing fields at the back of the West Wight Sports and Community Centre in Freshwater, where he was greeted by the island's Lord Lieutenant Susie Sheldon. He then dropped into the centre to talk to staff and volunteers who helped to set up the West Wight Help Hub and meet members of the Our Place Community Cafe. He moved on to Yarmouth to chat with shopkeepers outside Harvey's convenience store and chemist Tim Gibbs of Yarmouth Pharmacy. From there, he spent time in Newport High Street, where Mrs. Sheldon updated him with plans for the town's regeneration. He ended the visit at Thompson's restaurant, where Michelin-starred chef Robert Thompson explained how his business had expanded to cope with coronavirus. Homeless woodcarver David Wallace, who has a piece of his artwork currently on show at the Royal Academy's summer exhibition in London, revealed it was a closely kept secret and everyone was told not to mention a word. I'm a member of our place and 4 of us were invited into a room for a private chat with him to talk about what the project represents. We spent about 20 minutes with him and he was really interested in what we had to say. At the end, I presented him with a carved wooden narwhal tusk which I'd made for him. It was Prince Edward's first official visit since the pandemic, and at the West Wight Help Hub he was told about the collaboration between local community organisations, which helped more than 400 vulnerable people during lockdown. He also met centre members attending a mature movers exercise class and visited the gym. Centre manager Claire Griffin said, "Tuesday was a fantastic day and such an accolade. For Team West Wight, it was a credit to the work of our staff and volunteers during lockdown and since that we have been acknowledged and singled out by the Lord Lieutenant and Prince Edward. What we've achieved as a team is really quite amazing, from setting up the coronavirus support hub and the online fitness programme within days of lockdown to the recruitment of hundreds of volunteers and the management of the hub. After lockdown, we dealt with the reopening of the sports centre and integration of the community work alongside our physical activity programme, and everyone has played a part."
This is Howard reading an article from the Isle of Wight County Press regarding Ryde Pier transformation. A £10 million investment will see the creation of the long-awaited Ryde Transport Hub and the transformation of the old Pier tramway into a dedicated cycle and pedestrian walkway. The multi-million-pound project has been announced by the Isle of Wight Council on Monday, following a successful bid to the government's Transforming Cities Fund, that's TCF, and public consultations will follow. Detailed plans will be released in the near future, but for now we know there will be an accessible cycling and walking link along Ryde Pier on the redundant tramway, a reconfiguration of the bus and train station, refurbished public toilets, widened paths, new crossings and cycle routes. Pedestrian and cycle routes will run along from Ryde Esplanade to Apley. The Ryde Regeneration Group has already had its say on the plans during early discussion. Islanders will be consulted when the detailed plans are published in the coming weeks, says County Hall. The Isle of Wight Council submitted a joint bid with Portsmouth City Council, Hampshire County Council and local public transport operators with a shared commitment to transform the way people travel in the area. The bid was awarded £56 million towards the total scheme package of £96.5 million, with matched funding provided by each of the bidding authorities and their partners. The Council says the success of the bid is an important next step for the 3 authorities towards developing a rapid transport network for the area.
This is Sue reading an article from the Isle of Wight County Press. Olympic trial hopes for steeplechaser Eckersley. After a number of years of improvement in his specialised event, the 3,000-metre steeplechase, Island Games gold medalist Daniel Eckersley had already qualified to take part in the British Athletics Championships, staged at Sports City in Manchester. The British Championships were scheduled to also act as the trial for the Tokyo Olympics before they were postponed until 2021 due to coronavirus. There were 8 competitors in Dan's steeplechase event and, from the gun, Mark Pier set off at a cracking pace. After the first 400 metres, Dan, of Cowes, was at the back of the field, detached from a group of 3, while the pace up front continued with Phil Norman tracking Pierce as the field began to string out. As athletes began to tire, Dan, who was last, passed Terry Forden and then, with 800 metres to go, he focused on catching Remy Adibiyi into the final water jump. The gap was down to 10 metres, and with good technique over the last barrier on the home straight, the gap had halved. But Adibiyi just did enough to hold off the Islander. Dan 7th in 9 minutes 19.15 seconds, coupled with the experience of competing in such a prestigious event, has left the door open to him to still make next year's Olympic trial with another year of hard training.
This is Den reading from On the Wight. Head to an Isle of Wight library for Libraries Week, your passport to reading. There'll be lots of activities at Isle of Wight libraries this week, including online readings, book chat, grab bags with a comfort read novel selected by local library staff, plus some refreshments to wash it down. The Isle of Wight's libraries are now all reopened for readers to visit and browse. Libraries Week, an annual celebration of Britain's public libraries, takes place from the 5th to the 10th of October, and libraries will be open for borrowing and returning books or using the free computers. Library Week theme this year is Your Passport to Reading, recognising how the island's libraries helped to keep the island reading during lockdown with growing collections of free e-books and e-audiobooks, and how reading in all its forms can provide comfort, companionship and escapism during these difficult times. The libraries have reopened with different and usually more limited opening hours than previously, and with a wide range of COVID-19 precautions in place. All pre-lockdown loans were extended to the 30th of September, and no fines are being charged until then. But readers with books at home that were borrowed before lockdown should return these now. Special arrangements can be made for those who would rather not come into the library. Anyone concerned about coming inside the library to return their books can contact the library to arrange a time for a member of staff to pick them up outside the building. A varied programme of online events will be running during Libraries Week to celebrate the things libraries continue to offer online: books, talking books, newspapers, magazines and music, and to remind islanders that the libraries are open to visitors again. There will be daily book chats on the Isle of Wight Library's Facebook page, led by a different member of staff each day. For children, there will be a special online Lego challenge, rhyme time and story time during the week. Anyone visiting a library in person during Library Week will be offered a grab bag containing a comfort read novel selected by local library staff, plus some refreshments to wash it down. I am delighted that our libraries have all reopened, and we are looking forward to welcoming all of our customers back. Remember, the library service is open to all island residents. It's easy to join the library, and book borrowing is completely free.
Iona. Price hike in Isle of Wight parking permits and charges just a fortnight away. On the Wight. The rise in parking charges and permits is expected to raise £800,000 for the Isle of New car parking charges on the Isle of Wight, and it'll be brought into force in 2 weeks' time, including a price hike for residents who have to pay for parking permits. Although the Isle of Wight Council says it's held off implementing the changes for as long as possible due to coronavirus. As decided in February this year as part of the authority's budget for 2020 to 2021, a number of charges are being increased as a way of income generation. The council has now said the charges will come into place from the 15th of October and could generate an additional £800,000. The other permit set to be overhauled is the all-island car park permit, frequently used by commuters to park while they're at work. Previously, there were two options of the permit with different time frames, which cost £324 and £462 respectively for a year. Now, those who purchase the permit will have to pay either a single payment of £540 or, if you have to pay by monthly instalments, £600 for 12 months of 24-hour parking in long-stay car parks. Residents who have to buy a permit to park near their houses will pay more than double in some cases. The £44 charge per car is set to rise to £72 for your first permit and £100 for the second. Administration charges for permits are also going to increase to £15 per request. A council spokesperson, however, said the new all-island 24-hour permit offers islanders greater flexibility in payments and coverage. The 12-month permit for Scarrett's Lane will also rise by £100 to £600. Parking tariffs in long and short-stay car parks across the Isle of Wight. The Isle of Wight Council will also increase from as little as 10p or by as much as £2.60 for longer overnight stays. Long stay car parks will now charge between £1.60 and £9 for anywhere up to 10 hours, with long stay on-street parking charges going up to £8.60 for 8 hours. Short stay car park charges will vary from £1.10 for up to half an hour to £5.10 for 3 hours. On-street short stay spaces will be charged at £1 for 30 minutes, up to £4 for 2 hours. Heavy commercial, public service and passenger carrying vehicles will face a £2 increase for parking during the day and a rise of £2.60 for overnight parking. An Isle of Wight Council spokesperson said the advertised changes are designed to make parking charges fairer and simpler across the island, ahead of a detailed review of parking facilities and fees. Mindful of the impact of coronavirus, the council has held back from implementing the adjustments for as long as possible at considerable cost to its budget position. It also sought to support the community during lockdown by suspending parking charges entirely, contributing to a funding shortfall of £10 million in its finances. The council continues to be committed to supporting the future vibrancy and viability of the island's high streets. Among the changes is a new £1 charge allowing drivers to park in Newport High Street for 30 minutes, helping to support businesses and boost the local trade. The tariff is aimed at people who want to pull up, nip in to one or two shops and then be on their way again.
This is Sue reading an article from On the Wight. Do you have a self-isolation plan sorted? Ask Isle of Wight Council. Leader of the Isle of Wight Council says that it is vitally important people take the time to make a plan in case they are ever asked to self-isolate. Be prepared in case you need to self-isolate. That's the message from the Isle of Wight Council in the week. It became law for people to self-isolate if they test positive for coronavirus or are contacted by the Test and Trace Service, otherwise risk being fined. To support the community through this difficult time, the Council has produced a helpful self-isolation guide, an online toolkit containing advice, support and signposting information to ensure residents are well prepared. Council leader Dave Stewart said, "We know self-isolation isn't easy, but it is vitally important people do take the time to make a plan in case they are ever asked to self-isolate. How will I access food? Who will collect my medication? Who will walk the dog? These are the kinds of questions residents need to consider and why good preparation will help ease some of the concerns they may have. Our self-isolation guide can help by providing useful telephone numbers for local support and delivery services, website links for further assistance, as well as top tips and general advice on staying healthy and active at home while self-isolating. I would urge all residents to download it now. Residents will need to self-isolate if they have any symptoms of coronavirus, a high temperature, a new continuous cough, or a loss or change to your sense of smell or taste. Have tested positive for coronavirus. This means you have coronavirus. Live with someone who has symptoms. If the person subsequently is confirmed negative, there is no need to self-isolate as a contact, or has tested positive. Someone in your bubble has symptoms. If the person subsequently is confirmed negative, there is no need to self-isolate as a contact or has tested positive. Are told by NHS Test and Trace that you have been in contact with a person with coronavirus. Are returning from a country that does not have an air bridge agreement. If any of these things happen to you, you must stay at home because this helps to stop the virus from spreading to other people. It is more than likely you will have a little or no notice that you must self-isolate. Self-isolation is not the same as lockdown. It is more restrictive and it will help if you have a plan. The legal duty to self-isolate came into force on Monday, September the 28th. With fines starting at £1,000 and increasing up to £10,000 for repeat offenders or serious breaches. People who have received a positive test must isolate for 10 days after displaying symptoms or their test date if they do not have symptoms. While members of their household must isolate for 14 days, you must not go to work, school or public places. Work from home if you can. Not go on public services or use taxis. Not go out to get food and medicine. Not have visitors in your home, including friends and family, except for people providing essential care. Not go out to exercise.
Hello, this is Lisa, CEO of Site for Wight, with the weekly update on the Talking News. This week we've been busy finalising the newsletter for October. It is now with the printers and should be sent out next week. There are quite a few additions to the newsletter this week. We have got ready the diaries which we sell each year to members in large print. All details are in the newsletter. Also, we have Christmas cards. This year, as a charity, we thought that we would design our own Christmas cards available to buy at just £3 for 10 cards, available to all members and anybody else who wishes to buy one. The proceeds obviously come straight back to the charity and help fund our future activities. We are also launching our annual raffle in the newsletter. This year, the charity will be 125 years old in November, and we are celebrating in as many ways as we can. The raffle this year will have a £125 cash prize and 125 other prizes, all to be won. We are looking forward to the draw, which will take place at the beginning of December. The newsletter will also contain the visual impairments protocol, which Hampshire Police have asked us to circulate to our members. There is a separate article within this Talking News which details how the protocol will work, but all information will be included in the newsletter, including the QR code which you can scan with any mobile phone or tablet. By scanning the QR code with your camera, you can open an audible version of the Talking News, the whole newsletter, and the visual impairments protocol issued by Hampshire and Isle of Wight Police. Anybody who needs any help scanning the QR code, don't hesitate to call the office and someone will be able to help you do this. Finally, I wanted to do a quick COVID update to remind people that gatherings of no more than 6 people are now allowed indoors or outdoors. This means that if, for example, you are a family of 4, you may only meet 2 other people. To clarify, it is not 6 households, it is 6 people who may now meet indoors or outdoors. Further, a reminder that when getting in a taxi, you are now required to wear a face mask at all times. This week saw the launch of the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Police Visual Impairments Protocol. This initiative has come about entirely due to one of our members, Tina Snow, reporting to BBC Radio Solent that she had a routine police visit and being without any sight was unable to read the warrant card to identify that this was indeed a genuine police officer. Tina reported the problem to BBC Radio Solent, who in turn went to Hampshire Police to point out the issue. The police responded very positively and just a few months later have now devised and implemented a new procedure for visually impaired people to follow. The procedure is based around giving a password, and the police officer who attends is then able to confirm the password back to the householder. A simple procedure which we believe will allow people to identify a genuine police officer at their door. We will be sending out the details of how the procedure works to every member, including an audible version, next week with our October newsletter. I will now read the press release written by Hampshire Police regarding this Visual Impairments Protocol, VIP. Press release. The VIP will be in place across Hampshire and Thames Valley police areas. In short, the VIP works by setting up a password system at the address of the visually impaired member of the community. When an individual calls either 101 or 999 and informs the call handler they have a sight impairment, a password of their choice will then be agreed. When the officer then visits the address, they will be expected to state the password to the person answering the door. If the officer cannot give the password, then they should not be allowed into the address. The issues that led to the introduction of the VIP were first brought to light by a member of the public called Tina Snow after she experienced a knock on the door by a police officer. Tina is fully blind and was not satisfied that the officer could effectively identify himself. Tina said, "Last year I had a police officer call at my door. He was making inquiries about an attempted break-in at a neighbouring property. Unfortunately, he did not have a Braille ID on him. I let him in, and I shouldn't have because I was taking a huge risk, as he could have been anyone. I contacted Hampshire Police, and I am really delighted that they have put together a protocol to safeguard people with sight loss in the future." Following the launch of the VIP, Assistant Chief Constable Craig Dibdin, Force Lead for Disability, said, "When we were contacted by Tina about the circumstances she found herself in, we were quite rightly asked, what can we do? Or what do we already do to safeguard people in Tina's position? When a police officer knocks on the door of a person with a sight impairment or severe sight impairment, how does that person satisfy themselves that they are indeed speaking to a genuine police officer? We contacted Tina and were absolutely delighted that she was willing to work with us to help us find a workable solution. Our accessibility team worked with Tina, and as a result of that, we developed the Visual Impairments Protocol. That protocol is being launched today, the 29th of September, to coincide with National Inclusion Week. And I can't thank Tina enough for bringing this to our attention and working with us. We have also been working closely with local charities Sight for Wight, Southampton Sight and Open Sight to gain further feedback from visually impaired members of the community about the experiences with the police and to introduce this new protocol to them. If you care for someone who has a visual impairment or have any friends, family members or colleagues with a visual impairment, we would encourage you to highlight the protocol to them." End of press release. As noted in the article above, Sight for Wight have been working with the police for the last few months to ensure the procedure that they and Tina pulled together could be used effectively and efficiently. The police were interviewed by BBC Radio Solent, as were ourselves and Tina. We will now play the full interview of all three participants. Thank you.
BBC Radio Solent.
A very good morning to you. It's coming up to 6 minutes past 7. Alan Newman with you this morning on BBC Radio Solent. Now, Hampshire Police have launched a password scheme to help visually impaired people to identify officers. It's thanks to BBC Radio Solent's listener Tina Snow, who was unable to see a warrant card when it was produced by officers visiting her home in Newport. It's hoped that the new protocol will be rolled out across all 43 police forces in England and Wales. Our Hampshire and Isle of Wight reporter Dominic Blake has more on this. He joins us on the show now. Dom, good morning to you. Just remind us a little bit of Tina's story, if you would.
Well, we had to go back to last September when police visited the Newport area because they were investigating burglaries. And one of the officers visited Tina Snow's house. And the only way that he could identify himself was by using a warrant card. And of course, that was absolutely no good for Tina because she is completely blind. Now, Tina raised this with BBC Radio Solent. She got in touch with us. We began to investigate the issue and frankly, Tina refused to take no for an answer. She said this is something that really needs addressing because it's affecting me and it's affecting clearly visually impaired people right across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. And Hampshire Police, to their credit, did decide they were going to look into it. And as a result, we're delighted to announce today that they have adopted a completely new protocol. It's a kind of password-based system which can easily be adapted to almost any situation involving visually impaired people. And it is being launched this morning. Hampshire Police say it's thanks to Tina and to BBC Radio Solent. Here's Assistant Chief Constable Craig Dibdin.
I spoke to Tina a couple of times in the very early days after her referral, and she was delighted. I think she was delighted that we had actually listened to her, delighted that we had taken on board her feedback and were doing something about it, and some real difference has been made as a result of her experience, and I'm really proud of that.
What would your message to Tina be?
Thank you very much. Thank you for bringing this to our attention, firstly, but probably most of all, thank you for being willing to help us. You know, we might not get it right all the time, but we want to get this one right now. And so I'm really pleased that Tina was willing to do that with us, and that's what I'm most grateful for.
It sounds so straightforward now, Dom, doesn't it? Now we're all talking about it, but at the time it was one of those, oh yes, how do we get around that? Is it something that could be rolled out nationally?
Yes, and it's taken a lot of work to get to this stage, but Hampshire Police have been working closely with West Yorkshire Police on this protocol. They've adopted it, and it's also being implemented by Thames Valley Police at the moment. And officers from Hampshire Police have also been working with the College of Policing on this protocol, and they say that the hope is that it will be used to benefit blind and visually impaired people right across all 43 police forces of England and Wales eventually, Alan.
Exciting story. Thank you for that, Dom. Listening to that is newsmaker Tina Snow, who joins us live from her home in Newport now. Tina, good morning.
Morning. I'm absolutely, my eyes are watering with emotion. I'm feeling all welled up and well.
I think quite rightly so, Tina, because unless people like you raise these issues, it just would never even be thought about, would it?
It wouldn't. I think a lot of these issues, it doesn't need to cost money to solve these issues. It's actually sitting down and trying to find a solution to the problem. And I'd really like to thank Craig Dibden and Tamsin from the Accessibility Department of Hampshire Police for working with me on the protocol, emailing me various drafts and listening to my suggestions. And I really would like to thank them for working with me. And I think if you have a disability, it's no good moaning about things if something's wrong. I think if something is wrong, you've got to work with that organisation to find a solution.
Yeah, I absolutely. And you're perfectly placed to test and moderate the ideas that come about. Can you take us back very briefly to when you thought to yourself, actually, I've no idea if you are who you say you are? What were they doing at your door in the first place? Or how did this originally come about?
Okay, how it came about, there had been an attempted burglary at a property, a neighbouring property in Wallace Court, where I live in Newport. And the police came to my door, and he said he would like to talk to me because there'd been an incident. When they say it's police, you panic and you let them in. And in retrospect, I really shouldn't have let him in because he could have been an axe murderer. And it's not until afterwards that
They're not usually that polite, though, in fairness to axe murderers.
Probably not. No, I don't want to find out. But you actually suddenly realise, well, that was very foolish. They could have actually come and actually taken my possessions or burgled me or just, I'd given them a right of entrance. They could have been anybody. And it wasn't until after the event that I thought, well, something needs to be done about this. And when I get a bee in my bonnet, I won't let things drop. And either fortunate for people or unfortunately, it depends on how you look at it. And I thought, radio silent. I'll have to be a newsmaker. They have solved issues for people in the past. And I contacted Dominic, and the rest is history.
I think it's amazing what you've done, because I imagine at first there's always going to be a bit of resistance, or it'll get lost in a bit of admin, because the police, of course, are very busy. Was there a moment in the last few months, weeks, when they said, this is what we're going to do, we've tested it, you said that's brilliant, and you thought, wow, I've actually achieved that goal?
Yeah, they kept me involved throughout the lockdown and the summer months. We were in regular contact. And I had to keep quiet about the protocol until it's launched today. And I'm just delighted that they've actually done this. It's just a huge achievement. But at the same time, I am disappointed that the RNIB, I couldn't get the RNIB on board to support me, and they are the major sight loss charity. So that was a huge disappointment that something so serious is not being taken seriously enough by sight loss charities.
Are you allowed to explain to us, without breaking any of the rules, how this new process works, or is it something that needs to remain reasonably covert, because otherwise it's going to, it can be copied or duplicated by someone and undermine the entire password process?
No, I'll briefly explain if I'm allowed to. What would actually happen was that if a policeman came to my door, I would ask for his collar number and call sign number. Each policeman has a unique collar number and call sign. I'll then put that on a tape recorder or my mobile phone.
Okay.
I'll then ring 101. And when I speak to 101, I'll explain I'm visually impaired, I'm totally blind. And they would actually... and I'd say, I would choose a password, and they would give me a crime and they would actually contact the PC involved. Well, I haven't got the protocol written down in front of me.
Sure, but they then start a chain of. So essentially, you check that the person at your door should be there using a password, and they confirm it.
Yeah, and you give that 101, the police his call sign and his collar number ID, and he would have my password, and he would be given the password. And if he hasn't got that password, he just won't get through the door.
Okay.
And if it's the other way round, if I'm reporting a crime, I'd have to ring 101 or 999, say I'm visually impaired, say what the crime was. They would give me a log number, and we would sort out a password, so I would know that the policeman carrying out the inquiry was who he said he was.
Yeah, which all kind of makes sense now, doesn't it? I mean, it sounds straightforward now, Tina. You think this sounds reasonably obvious, but until you flagged it, there's no police force in the country that's doing it. I mean, in an amazing way, you've changed policing for people who are blind or visually impaired.
Yeah, I mean, we did talk about Braille passwords, and I'll tell you what is frightening. The police found out that if you go on Amazon or any of these websites, you can actually buy something which says police in Braille.
Right, okay.
So, and the problem is, because you can't see, a fraudster could get a Braille card saying I'm police.
Yeah, of course.
And you've got nothing to verify that with, and I hadn't thought about that myself. I was thinking about Braille ID cards, but actually, if you can't see who the person is, a fraudster could make one up.
It could be anything. Yeah, I agree, Tina. It could be anything. And actually, it needed a bit of thought. It needed a bit of robust checking to make sure it works. And then the idea that you've got those details and you can check seems to be common sense and is a brilliant idea. Tina Snow, you've changed the world. How do you feel?
Thank you very much, Alan. Thank you. And thank you for Radio Solent and their listeners, and for yourself, Dominic Blake, Julian Clegg, Adam Blackwood, everyone who's been involved in this project. Thank you.
You're very kind. And because I'm in the media, I didn't interrupt you as you were thanking, you see. That's what being in the media is. You'll take it all, even though you did so little to help. It's all about you. Tina, what a delight. Have a lovely day. And just enjoy that moment of knowing that you're going to change things for people who are blind and visually impaired. Quite remarkable. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you very much, Alan. Thank you.
And we're listening to that is Lisa Holyhead, Chief Executive of the charity Sight for Wight. Good morning to you, Lisa.
Good morning.
Is this a problem that you have also experienced firsthand?
It is. I was born with a condition called achromatopsia, which means that I have no cones that function on my retina. This means that I absolutely can't stand being in any form of light. And I was living in Manchester at the time. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and unbeknown to me, somebody had broken in through the front door and were in hot pursuit with the local police. Of course, I woke to complete commotion and just hearing the word police, stop. They then turned all the lights on in the house, quite rightly, because that calms the situation down. But for me, that was the worst thing they could have done, because that completely blinded me. It was an extremely difficult situation, but I also understand at the time that the police's first and foremost duty is protect life. So, it was frightening for me, and it would have been frightening for anyone, but I can't say how grateful we are, having worked with them over the last few months on the new protocol, to move this forward for those non-emergency situations.
It seems, certainly to me, and I'm sure a lot of people listening, so obvious now that, of course, if you're blind or visually impaired and a police officer shows you his warrant card, it's of little use. So there should be something in place. It surprised me that we've got to 2020 without a protocol.
I think, yes, perhaps that's true, but we very much are looking forward. There's no point in looking back. The world has changed hugely. Everything's changed hugely. The level of the type of policing has changed. And, perhaps previously people may have just recognised the voice of local officers, but that's not where we are now, and we're very much looking forward. And as I say, we're very pleased that this has been able to move forward so quickly, so efficiently, and with a simple procedure for people.
And the protocol now, without sort of going into too much detail, what it enables the person to do is to either ask through the door if the chain is on, or to speak through the door to get the numbers from the police officer as to who he is, and then use the 101 number, is it, to use your password and to check that police officer is who he says he is?
Absolutely. He or she, indeed. You phone 101 and you can verify a very simple password that you choose, and you can just literally speak to them on the other end of the line. They will then radio as necessary to the person on the door, and you can communicate through 101, and therefore you know it's safe and secure.
Do you know whether they're going to roll this out across the UK, or are they going to wait and see how people find this new protocol?
I think they're going to, of course, seek feedback on the new protocol, and that's a very important part of any procedure, to seek feedback to make sure it works. But obviously, we would all love it to be rolled out across the country as soon as possible.
It's amazing, isn't it? Tina's listening, of course, this morning and is absolutely thrilled. Your message to her as she listens in?
Tina, thank you very much for taking it forward on behalf of all of our members on the island and indeed across the country.
I think it's amazing. Lovely to speak to you. Thank you for that. That's Lisa Holyhead, Chief Executive of the charity Sight for Wight. The introduction of a new protocol which will help the police when dealing with people who are visually impaired.
BBC Radio Solent.
Sight for Wight would like to thank you for listening to this week's edition of the Talking News. We would also like to thank our volunteers for reading, and a particular thank you to the Isle of Wight County Press, Isle of Wight Observer, News on the Wight, and Island Echo. A special thank you must go to Vectis Radio, who has helped us get vital information to our members.